What is up, guys? It is Slippin Jimmy, CJ here from Outlier to join you here for another live look ahead, live look ahead show. This is our third one that we get to do of the season. So I've had a lot of fun doing this with you guys the first couple of weeks. We got some honestly some really good CLV for week two. Week three in particular, I remember the Giants money line was one that we had been able to get some good CLV on, along with a couple other ones thrown in there. I think the Denver 6.5 that actually did end up moving a little bit against us towards the end. But if you did bet that early, congratulations, you just won your first game betting on Bo Nix. So awesome job by us there. Yeah, in terms of just takeaways from today. I think we're starting to figure out the teams that stink and the teams that may actually be for real. We'll get through a couple of those and some of my thoughts here as we go through some of the lines. But with that, why don't we actually go right here into looking at the lines? I am away from my home office today, so we're just going to be kind of going in between screens. So just follow along. Basically, what we do so if you see kind of just an infinite screen there, what we do on this in the next 30 to 40 minutes or so is we're going to look at the lines for upcoming for week four. And then we're going to just kind of try to decide based on what we're seeing from some of the more sharp bookmakers, such as like Pinnacle, Bookmaker, Bet Online. Where do we think some of that line movement is going to ultimately end up going? Talk about some injuries that may influence that, talk about some power ratings, and then give you guys some bets here on some teams or some spreads, some totals that we think may be good to hit as an opener before some of these lines get a little bit sharper later in the week. So there are a couple of games, remember, that we still have outstanding. The Chiefs Falcons playing right now. We've got the Bills and Jags tomorrow, as well as the Commies and the Bengals tomorrow. So those six teams likely going to avoid those games for now, just because we kind of need to see what happens if there are any other injuries that could be impactful from those games. Obviously, there's a whole kind of strategy in terms of betting on look-aheads, where you have to kind of ignore that a little bit, and you can get some good CLV. But we are going to avoid those games for now. So take a quick look. I do like to kind of look ahead at the Thursday game to start. This one, I think initially, especially if you watch if you watched week one, I think we probably would have this line probably would have opened Dallas minus like 8.5. So Dallas minus 5.5 here, as we are seeing on Bet 365. Definitely a correction. I think more so on the Dallas end of things than the Giant end of things. Mentioned like some of those teams we kind of figured out that may stink. I think the Browns certainly could be in that category. I mean, good win by the G-men today, but that might have been more about the Browns unable to still be able to move the ball against a pretty weak defense versus the Giants kind of figuring some things out. So minus 5.5 here. Let's take a look here over at Pinnacle and see. We've got Dallas minus 5. So it looks like there is a little bit, at least, of a preference towards the Giants. We're kind of in that Vegas zone. If you guys ever listen to Bill Simmons, he talks about this quite a bit, where we're more or less in that sort of like 4.5 to 6 range, where not really falling within any of the key numbers. So we are going to, you're kind of dead when it comes to the actual, not a ton of games end in 5.5, or 4.5, but start to get a little bit closer than when you get to 4. So 5, this tells me Vegas is, or not Vegas per se, should make sure do not refer to that as Vegas. Penny does, kind of is not sure really what to do with this game. Dallas should be favored. Definitely think they should be favored by more than a field goal, but not ready to move them over to 6. Bookmaker, even a little bit, I think, more interesting. So Dallas is 4.5 on Bookmaker. We've got 44 as the total, 43.5 here on the on Pinnacle, with the over a little bit shaded there. And then if we go to Bet Online, so let's go here. we are going to see that game is 5 and 43.5. So coming back here over to Outlier, we're going to see that 44. I don't think you're really getting a lot of value there on the total. If there is a bet, just in terms of you're kind of seeing where some of the sharper bookmakers are going. Obviously, the Giants 5.5. I do think bookmaker at 4.5, not necessarily trivial. There could be some money coming in on the Giants. If I'm looking at the injuries today, I did not see any major injuries for the Cowboys? I mean, if anybody sees in the chat or saw anything big from that game, let me know. I know that was a late game. On the Giants side, the only injury really that I was kind of looking at, they did have a corner, Drew Phillips, go down. Brian Burns did play today. He did actually matter. He got a sack. I know he had a couple of QB hits. So I would say that you know, Giants look relatively healthy coming into this one. It is a short week. Personally, if this got to 44.5, I might even bet this at 44 for the under. But I would say not one personally that I'd be betting, or I think you're going to get a ton of CLV. Maybe this gets down to 4.5 or 4 for the Giants, but I have a hard time seeing this, even with Dallas losing at home to Baltimore. Still, I mean, Baltimore kicked the shit out of them in that game, but still believe that they will be power rated a little bit better than the Giants here. So I am going to say that, again, if you want to just strictly go for the CLV, likely go for the Giants. Otherwise, I think you are probably probably betting an under in this one. All right, so let's look at a couple other games. So what I like to do on these is I really kind of try to pick 4 or 5. Obviously, we've got a lot of games each week that we are going to be trying to, see lines or line movement for. So if we kind of look at a couple of the other games against Jacksonville, we're going to skip that one. Interesting. I do think that Houston's 4.5 on this line. I think that could still actually get out a little bit more. So if you're someone who believes Jacksonville is going to look bad against Buffalo tomorrow, 4.5 might be interesting on that. I think the total there also 45.5. That is probably an under for me as well, but let's probably skip that. All right, so this one's interesting. So let's look at the Rams and the Bears. Rams, honestly, I have no idea how they came back to win the game against the Niners today. They are a team, though, that's interesting because they have had a lot of injuries, but there is a chance that potentially, some of those injuries could be able to come back. They have had some injuries on the offensive line that would be worth monitoring. I don't think you're going to see Cooper Kupp again in this game. On the Bears side, really the only major injury is Keenan Allen with the heel. So the Rams, if they continue to still have the offensive line injuries that they have, this is one. Let's take a look and see what Pinnacle has got here. Let's see if they have a line. They do. The Bears are -1.5 plus 108 on this, 40.5 as the total. And then if we go to bookmaker, Bears -1 and Bears as a pick in Bet Online. So early movement here towards the Rams. I don't think the Bears are very good, but I do also think that's a tall ask for Stafford and co to be able to do this again. I know this was a kitchen sink week for them. Basically, if they had lost, that was going to probably be their season already. So personally, I do think that the Bears are kind of interesting here. If you look even at the money line, -118 is not terrible just to take the Bears. Although, again, I think if you're looking for some CLV, this may, depending on some of the injuries, go more towards the Rams side of things. And in that case, I would say probably wait on the Bears there. So the total, again, being 40.5. It looks like we've got, let's go back to Pinnacle real quick to take a quick look at what that total is there. 40.5, but shaded to the over. 40 here on Bookmaker, and then 40.5 about -110 on both sides on Bet Online. So yeah, don't know if I have an opinion really on the total. I mean, I think that is kind of interesting. The Rams, even with all the injuries, you can see here an outlier, 10 out of 10 on the over for 40.5. Um, so that also could be, we may see some movement, maybe a little bit towards the over through there. Bears games, though, have been traditionally, I believe, mostly unders. And even think about that Titans game in week 1, which did clear the over. I mean, there was 2 defensive or special teams touchdowns in that game. So, over to me, that might be one where I might actually be looking at an under. But again, Rams have a pretty good track record of being over that number. This is definitely one that I am interested in here. So I will give full transparency. I grew up near Pittsburgh. I am a lifelong Steelers fan. I am not telling you guys any of this information related to some fan bias. I will tell you that -1.5 is probably uh, a good bet, and I actually could see. I was hoping actually that we might even get the Steelers as a pick 'em, maybe even a +1. This could move a little bit more in Pittsburgh's direction if we go back and look at Pinnacle. See if we have yeah. So this is -1.5 shaded already a little bit toward the Steelers in this one. Bookmaker, we've got this at -1.5 as well, and Bet Online looks like we have this at -1.5. So now the thing is with this one, this is likely. I don't think going to. I don't think this is going to 3. I think if immediately it gets to 3, given how the Steelers play, this could easily go. This would easily get bought back. So, 2 things on this one. I would say if you're going to bet the Steelers, and we look at the EV here, it's -130 on the penny money line for EV. Do we have a bet online? We do not on money line. Okay. So yeah, I would say though that this is definitely, and this has actually been, you can see the line movement here, right? So this opened um, back, I guess, at the beginning of the season, this was +100. So, but if you look even earlier today, this was -105. That's already gotten popped a little bit up to -118. I think you're probably getting some value here. So I'm going to actually add Steelers money line to one of these picks, and I still, until proven otherwise, Steelers are literally the reincarnation of the Iowa Hawkeyes football team from college, which they are not this season, surprisingly, but in the past have been a dead under team. So you're getting 39.5. I would not be surprised at all if this game closes a little bit less. And if I look at the total here, you can already see this is already shaded and juiced a little bit to under 39.5. It is 39.5 on Bookmaker, and it is 39.5 on Bet Online. All right. What's up, guys? What's up, Skeens? Him Hardaway, thank you guys for joining. Sorry again, there's a little bit of a infinity mirror screen because I got to go in between, but hope you guys are enjoying this. We do this again if you are first time joining. We do this every Sunday, and we kind of go through the lines, the look aheads, where you guys are going to be able to find the most value. All right, so keep scrolling along here. We have got Philadelphia. So this game, not really sure what to make of this. Might come back to this in a little bit. I do think that Tampa had a absolute letdown spot in this one. So not, to be honest, was not surprised at all that Denver came out and looked good against them. 2.5. If we quickly look at the other lines that we may have. Yep, that looks about right. 46, I also think is an interesting total. This one also, though, I do think has a chance to potentially take some points to the under. So I'll add this for now. We'll see if we come back to say if that's like actually a best bet or not. The reason I say that this is worth noting as an under, And also, I do think that Tampa will take some money here. Why? Well, because the Eagles had Devontae Smith for one. He was concussed in this game today. Also, or was it Lane Johnson? Yeah, Lane Johnson also, I believe, had a concussion, and Mekhi Becton hurt his finger. So you've got two fairly significant injuries on the offensive line for sure with Lane Johnson, and then you again also had, as you can see, Mekhi Becton here had a finger injury. So yep. So and then let's see, do we have anything on from Smith? I don't see that weirdly on here, but Smith did have a concussion. So um, it's going to be, this is definitely something to monitor. I do think if you want to get in on the Bucks, you probably want to get in on them uh, either now or once we start seeing some of those Wednesday, Thursday practice reports, because uh, Johnson and Smith missing would be big. And also, we don't know if AJ Brown is going to play in this game. So I do think you're going to see some movement, definitely towards Tampa. In here, you've got plus 120 on the money line. But I also think the under 46.5. Look, the only thing I'd say there is everybody makes fun of the Eagles defense, rightfully so. They played excellent today. Absolutely great against a rolling Saints offense. They outgained them, I believe, like 400 to almost 200 yards. So, yeah, under 46.5. Actually, I'm going to keep that in there. I think that very good chance we could see that total come down. Bengals game, we are going to skip. Also, if the Bengals are favored by 7 on the road, I know Carolina's bad. Have a hard time trusting the Bengals really with any kind of point spread that big. Saints, we will skip past this. Worth noting that the Saints lost, right? So Saints were one of the biggest winners from the first couple of weeks. The power rating adjustment, what is the rest of the market? What is the rest of the market going to look at this team like? The Saints did have another thing that I think is interesting. Eric McCoy, Pro Bowl, very, very good center for the New Orleans Saints. If we go back here, I know I promised I was like, we're not going to talk about games where teams are actively playing, but this one actually is worth noting because McCoy, their center, did get hurt. It was a groin injury. Typically, groin injuries like that are not going to be. He did not return. He was rolled out pretty early. I'm going to probably wager he does not play. If he does not play, also if Atlanta does look good in tonight's matchup, if Cousins looks good again, Atlanta minus 1.5, you are not going to get that. I will tell you right now, this will easily move to 2.5, and this could even potentially, again, depending on Atlanta tonight, this could get to 3. So I would definitely be, I will just add this for now. I would be interested there in the Falcons in terms of if I'm looking to get strictly for CLV. Also, honestly, that's not really again, we'll see what happens with any Atlanta injuries, but McCoy is somebody who does actually really matter for the Saints. I will try not to say that a lot about offensive line, but that was already an offensive line we had a lot of questions about in terms of coming into from the offseason. So taking a look at some of the other games here, we've got, and just see if there's any chats. Nope. Okay, we're good. Let's keep moving along. We've got the Broncos and the Jets. Denver a plus 325. That is I will say, tall task. I know they won today. Let me just see what their line is on. Oh, wow. Interesting. Okay. So Denver is 7.5 here on Penny. They are 8 on Bookmaker. They are 7.5 on Bet Online. Mm. Well, that is a little bit interesting to me. The money line. I'll say this: no team in the NFL. I've heard my friend Adam Rosenberg say this on a couple of other streams, but no team in the NFL should really ever be a plus 300 or more underdog. Even the Panthers that were as bad as they were, there's just too much parity. There's too much, kind of just randomness and variance that happens week to week. 325 on Denver is That is definitely interesting. The only thing again with this is you got to remember that. So to me, this is a game that's got a good whiff of like market sentiment is going to probably give a little bit of an upgrade to Denver. Also, they're probably going to forgive them a little bit from the Steelers' loss. The key thing that I would note here is that Denver's going on the road again, East Coast. I don't know what they're doing, given that they flew to Tampa. But that's still not I know it's not completely west to east from, say like LA, but it's still not trivial. That does kind of matter in this one. Jets also coming off a little bit of some extra additional rest from the Thursday night game. And yeah, let me just see if there's any other injuries here. By the way, I do not think this will get below 7. So, if you want the Jets, you're going to have to take them past that 7.5 number. If you want to tease the Jets, now might be the time to do it. Because I'm seeing here now, looks like this did update on Outlier, 7.5. Not a bet for me, but it might be a good teaser leg. That would definitely be interesting if Jets just basically -1.5 to win the game. All right, this is a super interesting one. So we have got the Packers and the Vikings. So Vikings, obviously, I think they certainly deserve a little bit of an upgrade. They've beaten two what we would consider, two obviously playoff teams from last season. We just saw that the Giants went into Cleveland and won, so they're not completely dead. So that week one win, the dominance in that win should not at least be completely ignored. And 2.5 to me is, however, a little bit low on the Packers. I'll just see if we have a line. Let's go back to Pinnacle. I am no line yet, it looks like, for that one. Let's see if there is one for Bookmaker on here. And we'll reload this. So one thing, obviously, this is a live show. There you go. Steelers already has moved to -2. I did talk about that. I think that that team should be a little bit of that they should be a larger, I think a little bit of a larger favorite, but they are not going to get to 3. Still not seeing a line here for Vikings. What about, we have one from Bet Online? And let's reload here. Just quickly see. And not seeing a line here. So this is, we haven't actually run into this situation a ton when we've been doing the streams. This is a indicator that, some of the rec books have at least decided to make this line already. One thing I do like using an outlier is that line movement. So the cool thing here is like you're going to see what was that prior, basically, prior to the season whenever we had the first line. So this was -5.5, right? -5.5 that we had. This would have been assuming that we had obviously no JJ McCarthy and that we had Jordan Love. So now we're at 2.5. So we made a 3-point adjustment. And I think we may get Love back in this one. Let's see, what is his ledge? He did have, that's true. Yes, he did have limited practices. Okay, this one's definitely going to be a bet. Putting this one in here, getting Green Bay under the field goal. So what's more impressive, right? Having Sam Darnold, who had at least a few weeks to prepare, and with the Kevin O'Connell offense, and also getting the Giants in week one to kind of boost that confidence. He got the Niners coming off a complete ass kicking that they gave on a Monday night, who were also somewhat shorthanded. And then, good win against the Texans today. To be fair, that was also a nice win. I also think the market might have rated the Texans a little bit too high versus what the Packers have done, where they have won with Malik Willis 2 consecutive weeks. one against the Colts, who may not be very good at home, one against the Titans at Tennessee, who also may stink. Um, but you did this with Malik Willis, right? So I don't know. I think 5.5. So you're basically giving 3 points adjustment to the Vikings if Love plays in this game. I have a hard time kind of getting there. I could see this being Packers 3.5, maybe. Certainly, I do think this will get to at least 3, though. So I would put, assuming Love plays, I would definitely put Packers in there. All right, so we've got a couple more that we want to hit on here. Obviously, we will skip the Buffalo game. We will skip the Washington game. Although, again, just quick kind of first glance here, 49.5 might even be low. I know the Cardinals, that game was low scoring today. I'm not buying that in terms of the Commanders' defense is next level bad. So 49.5 does seem a little bit low there to me. And then also, if we look at the Bills and Ravens, which that should be a great one on Sunday night next week, that probably seems fair, to be frank. 45.5 maybe might go under, not really sure, but that one's, yeah, that one kind of seems fair. I just got done saying that no team should ever be, you should never have a team as a greater than plus 300 on the money line. And here we go. We've got New England at 450. I man, let's see, what is that price on Pinnacle? Plus 387. I don't know if I have the nuts to go and go bet the Patriots right now. I wouldn't be surprised though if that. So again, if you're just looking strictly for CLV, that line could certainly move. We're not going to get McCaffrey. May not get Kittle. Certainly, good chance we're not going to get Debo. So yes, it's at home. Patriots do have rest here. Coming off also pretty embarrassing loss for them. I don't know who's going to be quarterback. If it's Brissett, yeah, I don't know. I just that is a lot of points for a Niners team that I think this line is assuming that there's no way that they could lose 3 games in a row, and I think this literally happened last year with this mostly same team. So, and I'll look at just to see, is that line? Yeah, so plus 39 on Penny, and what do we have for a line here? 10.5. Yeah, so there's still probably a good chance that San Francisco is still going to. I don't know if 10.5 probably seems right. But if again you're looking for probably value, I would say Patriots on the spread, or probably even if you just want to really get some good value, Patriots on the money line. All right, we're not going to pick this one though. We've got maybe just a few more we want to get to. I try to keep these usually between like 30, 40 minutes. Let's see, Browns and Raiders. Oh boy, this is, as the folks on the Deep Dive podcast, Drew Dinsick, Andy Molitor, they have a term for this. It's called the Shower Fart Game of the Week. This is definitely in that camp. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I do think that the Raiders, if you are seeing them at all as a plus money on the money line, man, it might have to be a bet, because one of the things with the Browns today, so Jed Wills played. I haven't seen his grades for today's game. He did play in that game. Here's the big news, though, from the Browns game. Wyatt Teller, one of their offensive linemen, he is good. Exited with a knee injury, did not return. He is definitely somebody that matters on a line that Conklin also did not play. So that line is also pretty beat up. This is a bad matchup for them with Crosby and Wilkins also on the Raiders defensive side of things. The other thing with that game is that Watson, so if we go, I believe Deshaun Watson did have, let me go back and see if I can find where I saw this. He did have a non throwing shoulder injury. What do we kind of know about Deshaun Watson so far with his time with Cleveland? So let's see if I can find it here. But um, if he's in any sort of pain, it is almost certain he will not play. And he hasn't looked good to begin with. So here's what I would say. Yeah, I'm not seeing if I can find anything here. He did have a, okay, here it is. Yeah. So this was the injury. You can see that play right there. So here's what I would say. If you're a Raiders backer, um, I would say go make that bet right now. Because I do think that this will absolutely move. Don't even waste your time. I feel like on the spread, I would just go money line here. However, if Watson is not practicing this week, um, something to keep note of, because I think this offense is going to probably be better with Jameis Winston regardless. So that actually there may be some desire from other bettors there to take the Browns if Winston does actually play. So I would say um, to me, absolutely, that's a good that's a good number you should go get right now. If you can get that at plus money, absolutely. Um, I would say go and bet that. And I'll just do a quick look at the odds here. Yeah, Raiders are already +1, so half a point difference. I'm seeing a total of 38 and a half +1. +1 shaded towards the Raiders on Bet Online. So yes, this is absolutely a game that you're going to get some CLB on for betting the Raiders there. Two more games that we want to cover here. So we've got the Titans at the Dolphins. Man, Miami has another tough spot in this one. This is, however, they do get at least that extra day of rest coming off of the trip from Seattle. I have to say, if this is Tim Boyle going, so on the Miami side of things, Skylar Thompson left the game with a chest injury. One of their better linebackers, David Long Jr., he also left the game with a hamstring injury, did not play. Mostert also didn't go in this one. I know it's kind of like throwing up in your mouth, having to bet the Titans, but I think there's a good chance that this could move towards Tennessee. And I also think 37 and a half is probably even still a little bit too high. So if I look at Pinnacle, I am seeing 37 and a half. I am seeing Tennessee with a slight favorite there on the money line. And if we go -1, 37 and a half, -1, 38, Bet Online, 37 and a half is not a lot of points. So I do think though that this is one you are going to see some movement on Tennessee. I'm going to put Tennessee money line here, just because I think Tennessee's defense is still pretty good. Did not look great today. I will say that, but I do think that this could be Tennessee. I know they're on the road. This won't get to 3, but I think there might be a play on the money line here. Last one that we've got on the board is the Lions and the Seahawks. I loved, by the way, the Lions -2.5. That did eventually close at 3. I made a point on this last week. Just thought that was a game that set up perfectly for a good bounce back for those guys, and they did come through. We've got a 4.5 line. If we look and see, what was the opener? Do we have an opener line on this? Yes. So this opened, okay, interesting. So this opened 6. It has gone up to 4.5. So we are giving the Seahawks a 1.5 point upgrade. I don't necessarily think this is a downgrade for Detroit. I did not see any major injuries for the Lions today. I'm just kind of looking back through my notes. I guess Sam Laporta did go out. That could matter somewhat. And let's see. Yeah, we did not see Kenneth Walker today for the Seahawks. Byron Murphy, their rookie defensive lineman, he left, and they are still missing a few other guys. Here's my thing with the Seahawks, and I have been a Mike McDonald guy for most of this season. If you look at the teams that they have played, they have had probably about as good as it could set up for. So now you're looking here, by the way, on Penny. This is shaded slightly towards. So this could be moving towards 4. We will see on that. 48 as the total. I think 48 is probably a little too high. I see Bet Online has that shaded a little bit under at 48. And then if we go back to 48.5. So yeah, I think this one's a little bit high on the total. What's one thing that Lions games have actually weirdly been going under. I think if you look at, is it the last 3? Yes, last 3 games. In fact, all 3 games this season, these have been dead unders. Even today, 20-13, Lions felt like they controlled that game. Still 33 points against, and this was 40 or 51.5. So you're looking here, right? So 53.5, 52, 51.5 as the totals. We're still getting 48.5 on this total. I definitely think this is moving. So this one I actually feel fairly confident in. In terms of a side, like I said, I personally think we could be in for a Seattle, potentially a Seattle letdown in this spot, but 4.5 probably is right. I do think they need to get at least a bit of an upgrade. And I don't know. It doesn't really make, like I said, much of a difference if you're betting the Lions at 4.5 or 5.5. So, all right, let's recap here. So we've got a couple. Here are the ones we've got 8 different picks that I added to our slip. Obviously, not betting all of these at FanDuel. If you're using Outlier, that this is going to be where you can kind of select your different books to switch and go and make those bets. The games I definitely like the most, though. So absolutely think that either the total 39.5 or Pitt money line, if you can get that at probably under, I'd say minus 125, absolutely worth taking a look at to fire on now. I can almost guarantee you this under is going to go lower. I know Fields looked good today, but there was even that game still had kind of like a breakaway play that scored. So good. That's our leading the Phillies 2-1. Fantastic. Let's go Mets. So other games here, I do think yes. So I like the under 46.5 for Eagles and Bucks. Like I said, keep an eye on those injuries for the Eagles. Johnson in particular and Devontae Smith, and if A.J. Brown doesn't play, this is certainly going to move under. I am not going to say this is what I would say like an official pick, but I do think Atlanta's minus 1.5. If you want to really get ahead, again, depending on what they're doing right now, I haven't looked at the score. That certainly could be one because, like I said, Eric McCoy for the Saints is going to matter in that game. Really like Green Bay, minus 2.5 here. Love limited practices. Again, this line, the look ahead was, I think, like we said, 5. I still think that I would make this about 3.5 at least for the Packers at home. I'm fine taking them past that 3, so I would try to get that now if you could. Vegas money line, absolutely worth it. I think of that right now. However, monitor the Watson stuff because if Watson is not a go, then I think you have to kind of upgrade with Winston behind center. Titans money line, I think we will see some movement there. I'm going to call that out because, again, if you want to get some CLV, I mean, just go back and look at the actually don't go do this. This is probably a absolute waste of like 10 minutes of your time to see highlights of Tim Boyle from the Black Friday game last year. But CLV you will definitely get with the Titans money line. I personally don't think I love that one as much. I would be looking at an under, but again, that total is 37.5. So probably going to stay away from that unless we see hopefully some movement more towards the over. And then the under 48.5, I love this one for Seahawks Lions. Like we said, Lions have had, this will be their fourth consecutive game with a total greater than 48. They've not even come close to most of these totals. In fact, that first week where they had the most points, 46, that had to go to overtime against a bad Rams defense. So, yeah, I would say let's just take out the Falcons one. These are our 6 that I like the most. Again, Pitt money line, 39.5 in the Steelers Colts game, under 46.5 in the Bucks Eagles, Packers minus 2.5, Vegas money line with a little bit of an asterisk on Watson's status, and then love the 48.5 for the Lions. So that is going to do it here on the stream. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here. But yeah, thank you guys once again for joining. Love doing these on Sundays. We'll be back here next week at 9 p.m. Do it all over again. We'll kind of see which bets aged well and which ones did not and aged poorly. You can find me in the Outlier Discord at Slippin Jimmy. I am on Twitter at Dads That Bet. And hey, I'm always around to talk shop, go over some bets, and yeah, good luck. Best of luck, everybody. And looking forward to tomorrow's doubleheader on Monday night. So thanks again, everybody, and we'll see you next week.